I can finally do it. After all these years. I can finally put you where you belong. In the trash. Don't mind me, you just caught me chatting with my good buddy Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion XL for the Wii. Completing the box with the manual. It's getting attached to my shirt. But you know, since this game has been announced or rumored, I could finally put this complete piece of garbage in the garbage compactor. Hey guys, Brady here. So remember when Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was announced? We were so hyped. All these Nickelodeon characters coming together for a Smash Bros. Style fighting game. You know, SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Lincoln Loud, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, specifically Leonardo and Michelangelo, Reptar, Helga, Nigel Thornberry, all of these characters, Cat Dog, Ren and Stimpy, all these lovable characters from when we grew up as kids coming together to beat the ever-living Nickelodeon Gak out of them. You guys remember Nickelodeon Gak and Floam? I remember seeing commercials for those. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, remember when that game was announced? Well, thanks to my good buddy Gray, or G King, on Discord. By the way, might I add that half of our DM is fully covered with Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, and the thing that we're talking about today, that's all we talk about usually. It's just something gets rumored, we need to talk about it. The game that in question is entitled Multiversus. As I said before, in the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl Top 10, this is an amazing idea. A great way to cash in on the Super Smash Bros. Video game franchise. And once again, like I said, some companies try and do that, and they drop dead. Like Drop Dead Fred. That is a horrible movie. And like I said, Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion is the most incredible victim to this. We all know the failure of that game. It's got a scoring of 4 on IGN, even though IGN never matters to us. And it was received intrusively terribly. Even Alpharad doing a video on it. Who remembers that video? I do. So, you're probably wondering, if that was based on Nickelodeon, what is this based on? Well, now it's time for Warner Bros. To throw their hat into the ring. Hence why I was holding Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion. Because half of the cast in that game is filled with Warner Bros. Characters, which Cartoon Network is owned by Warner Bros. You never know. So, I've decided to culminate, just like Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl before it, I'm going to culminate a top 10 list of characters that I want. Make note, like I said, do not take this list seriously. It's only my picks. Even if one of my picks doesn't get into the game, I'll still be happy with the final product likewise. And let alone the fact that it's free to play. Kind of. And it's tag team, too. Keep in mind. So let's get into it, shall we? So, yes. Let's talk about my top 10 characters that I want for Multiversus. Now, before we start the top 10, I must say this. The characters that are currently confirmed so far. We have this OC character named Rain, or Ryan, or something like that. I don't know. It's Ryan time. I'm so stupid. We also have Batman, Harley Quinn, Superman, and Wonder Woman. I'm so down to play as Batman and Harley Quinn, because they were pretty big powerhouses in the Injustice games. You know, you get the idea. There's Finn from Adventure Time and Jake from Adventure Time. Both separate characters, not one character. Steven Universe. I just really hope they don't use the Future design, because Future is crap. Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Tom and Jerry, and Bugs Bunny. That's just to name a few. We don't know necessarily if there's any other characters. And there's at least 3 other characters that were rumored, but were not showed off in the roster leak. Fred Flintstone, Mad Max, and Johnny Bravo. Now, I'm not going to include either of these three characters in the list because, they're rumored and they could potentially be in the final game. I don't necessarily know. But for the time being, let's dive right into the list. Shall we? So, let's do it. Now, before we get to the actual list, let's get to honorable mentions. Now, normally, the honorable mentions comes before the number one. Usually, you put honorable mentions right before you say your number one pick, which is kind of what Phantom Strider does with his top 5s and top 10s and top 3s. Subs to Phantom Strider. I don't watch him anymore, but he's cool. So the honorable mentions, there are 8 of them for me. So number 8 is Neo from The Matrix. Now, I've not seen any Matrix movies. In fact, I don't really know that much about the series. All I know is that it's popular and it blew people's minds when it came out in 1999. Well, the first movie came out in 1999, and the rest came out in 2003. The next 3 movies came out the same year. I've not seen The Matrix. I've not seen Matrix Reloaded, or Animatrix, or Matrix Revolutions. And then there's a 5th one coming out, Resurrections, which I also want to see, but I need to catch up on the Matrix formula. Also, make note that this list was actually kind of hard to do, because, despite Warner Bros. Owning so many lovable properties, it is extraordinarily hard for me to pick characters from specific franchises. And half of them are from Cartoon Network. Or some of them, yes. Some of them, no. So, as for Neo, the Matrix is based around, slow motion martial arts, and in-your-face action. So, Neo could obviously hone that ability. And that's basically all I know about The Matrix. Aside from the clip and all that. So, yes. Now, number 7. By the way, I'm reading this off of my computer, which is over there, right there. I'm reading the list because, I need to memorize the not lyrics. This isn't Starbomb. I need to memorize the characters and see which characters I'm going to talk about. End of story. So, next character is probably going to be separate. I don't really want them to be a team, but this could work. Blossom, Bubbles, or Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls. Now, I love the Powerpuff Girls to death. They touched me as a child like no other. Especially another character that's my number 1 on this list. Now, I really don't know if they're gonna be a team. They could. If you want to swap out characters like Blossom, and then you choose Bubbles, and then you choose Buttercup, yeah, that could be cool. This is also not their first time appearing in a fighting game. Hence, Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion. Blossom was the only good character in that game, out of the 3. And I occasionally played as Mojo Jojo, because, Mojo Jojo. They could work as a team, but they could also work separately, like with Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion. But if you want to swap them out, you just be like, and the 2 of them could be in the background and 1 could be on the field of battle. Speculate their moveset if you want. They could copy their moveset from Punch Time Explosion, but I highly doubt that they would do that because they screwed up once and they'll learn from their mistakes. So, number 6 is Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Now, if you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz yet, go do it. It's classic, it's revolutionary, it's mind-blowingly well told through for the story. It's basically one of the best films ever made, and yes, I can agree with the rest of the people on that. Just be sure to avoid Legend of Oz. And try Oz the Great and Powerful. But avoid The Wiz, for the love of God. If you watch The Wiz, you will be scarred for life like me. It's literally one of my least favorite movies of all time. However, this character, of course, being Dorothy, I don't know what her moveset would be, honestly, but I do know that Toto would be following her around. And I do know what some of her alts that could be possible, like the Tin Man, like it's like a silver color, or Scarecrow, or the Cowardly Lion, or the Wicked Witch of the West, or the Munchkins. color palette. There's multiple color palettes for the Munchkins, like the Good Witch or something like that. And you could even have a sepia tone color palette because the film starts out with sepia tone in the King Kansas. Yeah, that's it. Now, number 5. Is it just me, or do I think Captain Planet deserves a second shot? Captain Planet, he's the hero. Gonna take pollution down to 0. Yeah. Captain Planet is a show, it's terrible. It's very bad. But if you like it, that's cool. That's cool. If you grew up with it, that's totally up to you. You're an awesome person. But the show itself is just terrible. It's very bad. Written, of course, by Ted Turner. I think it was Ted Turner that was the one who tried to educate us, but failed very, very massively. I mean, I don't even know. People still ask the question today, why did we watch this show? Because honestly, nothing else was good in the time slot that Captain Planet ran in. I think the only other thing that was on was Beakman's World. And God knows that you guys don't want to be educated by a British scientist and a giant rat. Look up Beakman's World if you want to. If you're curious, that is. It kind of reminds me of Imagination Movers. A little bit, except Imagination Movers was memorable. So, I apologize for that. Brief pause, because my phone is running low on battery, so I'm trying to conserve it. So anyways, let's move on. Actually, no, let's keep talking about Captain Planet. He kind of played as the Captain Falcon character in Punch Time Explosion. I mean, of course he would use the powers that he would have. Water, hope, heart, fire, wind, earth, a lot of stuff. Go ahead and speculate all you want. I'm not going to come up with the moveset. You guys are, because you guys are creative and know the sources very well. So, number 4 is a character that I know needs to be sized down. Or we could just choose a different character from the source material all together. But the character in question is the Iron Giant, from Iron Giant. Now, he'd kind of be like Ridley or something like that, or Reptar, where he'd be sized down incredibly. And plus, he's been in Ready Player One, so I mean, it makes sense. It's a very popular movie. It's got an incredible cult status. Now, I don't know what his moveset is going to be, but I guarantee you that it's going to involve laser beams out of his eyeballs, because that's what he did in Ready Player One. Nice. And also, I have not seen Iron Giant in ages, so you guys know about Iron Giant, so you guys could speculate his moveset. He'd kind of be a heavy hitter. That's all I gotta say. Now, number 3 is a character that is intrusively popular in the pop culture media, Pennywise from It. Now, I'm not specifically sure which Pennywise we're talking about here, like the 1990s Tim Curry Pennywise, or the 2017 Pennywise from It 2017. It all depends on if you guys like it or not. But we may need more villains, because so far it's just Harley Quinn and that's about it. Just Harley Quinn. That's the only villain in this roster so far. So we need more villains. Let's get Pennywise in the game, because the movies are owned by Warner Bros. This franchise is, I've never seen the movies. I want to, but, because I just recently got into horror movies thanks to furry cinema. But that's beside the point. So, next up we have number 2. Now this is a movie that I know insanely well. Sloth and Chunk from the Goonies. Now, it doesn't have to be Sloth and Chunk. It could just be Sloth, because Sloth is honestly the most memorable character of the movie. Hey, you guys. Let me know if you all seen the Goonies. It's one of the great American treasures. And plus, it's owned by Warner Brothers, so it could work. Obviously, Sloth would be much like the Iron Giant. He would be an incredibly large powerhouse. He could one of his neutral B better be throwing a chocolate bar like what Chunk did to introduce himself. That would be gold. Anyways, and as for my number one honorable mention, we have Parzival and Wade Watts, from, as you would have guessed it, Ready Player One. Now, I've talked about this movie. The third movie that I reviewed was Ready Player One. Now, if you guys like this movie, that's cool. I also really love this movie. It's recommendable, very, very recommendable, and that's basically it. And it's made by Warner Bros. So we could get Ready Player One representation, even though this movie is based on a book. However, let's go into greater detail. Obviously, Parzival is this guy who's like obsessed with pop culture, or Wade Watts is obsessed with pop culture, knowing basically everything about Halliday and all of the characters in the film know about Halliday and how he died and whatnot. But Parzival would feel like the most incredible choice for this, even though the movie is based on a book. But hey, it's made by Warner Brothers. Why not? So, yes. And I want his neutral B to be the Hadouken, like what he did in the final battle of Ready Player One, where it was kind of like a Street Fighter battle. And Street Fighter is in Ready Player One, so it makes sense. Now that we're done with the honorable mentions, let's move on to the actual list. Now, make note that this list is mostly culminated of a fan roster that G King made. So I'm going to be... Sorry, bud, but I'm going to be using some of your characters on your roster. Let me know if you're okay with that. Probably are. I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about number 10. This movie is made by Warner Brothers, and it stars one of the most popular meme characters of all time. King Leonidas from 300. Now, I love 300. 300 is a great film. If you don't like it, that's good. More power to you if you don't like it. But I love how gory it is, how action-packed it is, and how easily quotable it is. This is Sparta, tonight we dine in hell. All these classic lines that we all remember. Now, this is technically based on a comic, but Warner Brothers owns the rights to the movie. And plus, King Leonidas is in Super Smash Bros. LOL, like the first LOL, as the fourth moveset ever created. So it makes sense. Of course, he would use swords, shields, spears, everything that a Spartan would use in battle. Except he'd be kind of like Ike, where he's slow. I don't know, but you never know. And plus, 300 has some kick-ass music, obviously, so you're going to include that in the soundtrack. If you can remix it, that is. It's hard to remix that. Anyways, number 9 is a character that I feel like could make it in, but it could also not. Austin Powers. Of all characters to put in, Austin Powers is one of the most incredible comedy franchises I've personally ever seen, starring the excellent as always Mike Myers, the Cat in the Hat, and Shrek. Now, since Austin Powers is a joke himself, he'd obviously have a jokish moveset. Of course, one of his taunts would be, "Yeah, baby!" Because, that's one of his catchphrases. Now, I don't necessarily know what the rest of the moveset could be, but he'd be a nice character. And plus, one of his alternate costumes, friggin' Dr. Evil. Because, Mike Myers plays two characters in the Austin Powers trilogy. Austin Powers and Dr. Evil, so it makes sense, too. Anyways, next up we have a comic book. Not necessarily... It's more of a... It's a comic book character, but the movie's owned by Warner Brothers. Stanley Ipkiss from The Mask. More specifically, the Mask version of Stanley Ipkiss. Now, Mask is personally one of the more goofier side of Jim Carrey. It's one of the better movies from Jim Carrey. So, naturally, he has to be in this. Because The Mask, I think, was in Space Jam 2. Which makes sense, too, because, the movie's owned by Warner Bros., and I'm pretty sure the comic is also owned by Warner Bros., since the movie's owned by Warner Bros. You get the idea at this point. Now, his moveset would just be complete oddball. You know how, The Mask used a bunch of computer-generated effects? Well, yeah, he could put those effects to use by using boxing gloves and a Tommy gun as his neutral B. Now, that would be awesome. And, of course, his final smash has to be Cuban Pete. If you don't make Cuban Pete a final smash, or at least an alternate costume, for Christ's sake, make it that. Because Cuban Pete is... Cuban Pete. Look up Cuban Pete, please. Now, 7 is a character that I'm sorry if it keeps shouting you out, but that my friend Gray really wants to happen. Willy Wonka from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, Willy Wonka is one of the great, it's, just like Goonies, it's one of the great American treasures. It's one of the most classic films of all time, right beside The Wizard of Oz. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So, you know what? Add him in the game. He'd be very goofy. He could use the Oompa Loompas to help him out, like using the flute, like and the side B could be throwing exploding candy for your enemies. And up B has to be the fizzy lifting drink. You can't use anything else for his up B than the fizzy lifting drink. It's gotta be that, man. You can't make it anything else. But yes. Number 6 was a character. Number 6 is a set of characters, much like the Powerpuff Girls. I'm going to include Yakko, Wacko, and Dot from the Animaniacs. Animaniacs, yes. Now, the Animaniacs, it makes fun of Warner Bros. Itself. It makes pure fun of the Warner Bros. Brand. Even the new reboot makes fun of a lot of pop culture, including Warner Bros. And that's well, I wouldn't say the Warners are technically a mascot because, you know, they're very popular, especially nowadays. But they could be very silly. They could use a lot of slapstick humor to their advantage, like hammers and all those props that they used in the show. I don't really know that much about Animaniacs. I apologize if I don't. But that doesn't matter. Let's move on to number 5, shall we? A character that I think really deserves a second shot after Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion. Ben Tennyson from Ben 10. The Ultimate Alien version. Not the crappy reboot version. If you put the crappy reboot version in, I will come to your house and shoot you in the head. Even the original Ben 10 or Ultimate Alien would be nice. But I would specifically want the Ultimate Alien design. You can put in the original, I don't care. Or Omniverse. I don't really care. I don't care if you put Omniverse either. But yeah. He of course would use all the monsters to his advantage, you know. The flame monster that he used as his neutral special in I don't know that much about Ben 10. You guys can fill me in on that. The only aliens that I know are Humongousaur and Forearms. That's it. I apologize. Now, the next character that I'm going to be talking about is one of the most. It's a character that's from a series owned by Warner Bros. Emmett Brakowski from the Lego Movie franchise. Now, the Lego movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. This one I prefer the most, but they're both incredible films. So naturally, Emmett would be a perfect addition because he's an original Lego character, unlike any other. And plus, Lego has used a lot of Warner Bros. Brands over the future. There's been Lego Batman and Lego Ghostbusters. Wait, Ghostbusters is owned by a completely different company. I think so. But, you know, Lego DC Comics, and there's even been the Lego Movie, Lego sets. It's basically a gigantic brand at this point. But, you know, he'd be nice. He could use his master building skills to the test and kick some brick in 1 through 6. Not just kidding. That's complete saga. Anyways, next up is number 3. Now, we can't just have movie characters, or cartoon show characters even. We gotta include the video games. And what's the best character you could choose? Maxwell from Scribblenauts. Now I have dabbled in the Scribblenauts franchise. I love Scribblenauts. It's a great concept. And plus the games are fully owned by Warner Bros. Fully licensed, fully owned, fully everything. Now if you want to put Scorpion or Sub-Zero for Mortal Kombat, because those games are also technically owned by Warner Bros. But, you know, I don't know. I feel like Maxwell would be a bit more kid friendly for a E10 rating if they're actually going for an E10 rating. If they're going for teen, go all out. Put in Scorpion or Sub-Zero. But you need to include Maxwell, because Maxwell is easily the most incredible kind of character. You can use the notebook to create objects and use swords and guns and everything to your advantage. So yeah, Maxwell would be a nice character too. He'd be very lightweight in 2D, so he's Mr. Game & Watch technically, but that would be nice, because he could jump high and use wings when he wants to, because he's a creative masterpiece of a character. So anyways, number 2 was originally going to be my number 1, but I completely switched that around because another character was completely after my heart. So, it's a Hanna-Barbera character. Of all these franchises getting in, Fred Flintstone's getting in too. And Tom and Jerry, they're also owned by Hanna-Barbera, I think. But of all the franchises to choose, it's not Jetsons. It's not the Pac-Man cartoon, because Pac-Man's owned by Namco. It's not Hong Kong Phooey. It's not Snagglepuss. It's not Huckleberry Hound. But it's rather their only live-action series ever made. I'm, of course, talking about Bingo from the Banana Splits. Now, if you don't know what the Banana Splits is, consider yourself kind of lucky. It was a 60s show that ran to the 70s. It had 2 seasons of 41 episodes. It's all over the place at this point. Even having a movie in 2019 being completely different from the source material, it's a straight up horror movie. If you like that movie, let me know, because I really want to see that. It's one of the movies that I want to do for cinema. So keep an eye on that, buddies, at FC. So I don't necessarily know that much about the Banana Splits, but of all the characters, Drooper and Snorky and that other character that I can't remember the name of, Bingo would be the one that I would choose, because if I look at a picture of him, I'm like, that's Bingo. I can recognize Drooper and Snorky, and that's it, but, Bingo would be the most recognizable one. He's even on the poster of the Banana Splits movie, holding a hatchet. Now, that is neat. So it could be one of his main weapons. I don't know. It would kind of be based off, I don't know what his moveset would be based off of, or heck, you could put the entire Banana Splits crew and let them have their own movesets as like a team, but that would be a little too much, asking for too much, 4 characters in one character. So Bingo would obviously be my pick. He wouldn't hit too hard, but he would hit semi-hard. And plus, since he's a robot, he could use robotic powers. Well, he's a robot in the movie, not in the show. So, yes. That's that. Now for number 1. This character is one of my personal favorite cartoons. Right beside Powerpuff Girls and Ed, Edd and Eddy and Kids Next Door, which I just got into this year. It's a fantastic cartoon. This character right here is a classic character. He's one of the most well-known-ish characters from a show that started out great but ended terribly. I'm, of course, talking about the number 1 spot for my character list is Dexter from Dexter's Lab. I love Dexter. Much like Powerpuff Girls, it touches me as a child. I used to watch it a hell of a lot on Netflix, when it was on Netflix, that is. He was practically the best character that I would use in Punch Time Explosion back when I used to play that game, of course. Now I don't, because the game is bad. So, of course, he would use the laser gun, the teleportation, and give him a jetpack, and not a helicopter pack like you did in the Punch Time Explosion. You could do that, but jetpack would be more appropriate. He could use the robot arm for his side smash and up smash, and he could throw a flask on the floor, and it could splash all over the place in 2 ways, like this, and all that. So yes, and of course you have to give him that classic line that I, for some reason, just can't get enough of. I am unstoppable. I don't know why I can't get enough of that line. It's just so silly hearing him say that, or ooh, what's up, or something like that. It would be nice to have him in. It would be very cool to have him in, since he's a Cartoon Network classic, one of the most incredible cartoon characters ever, to me. Maybe not to you. So yeah, what do you guys think of my list? If you dislike this video, I will hurt you. Not in the best ways, though. Do you think that the Powerpuff Girls will get in? Do you think that Bingo is a terrible choice from a mediocre show? Or do you think Dexter will forever be known as the one classic Cartoon Network character to not make it in the game? I don't know. If you don't agree with this list, that's fine. But anyways, I gotta go. So, have a nice day, everybody. I will get to a retrospective in the future. Maybe a review. Maybe anything. I don't know. Collection video. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got a lot of videos planned, but I don't know what I'm going to do. So anyways, that's enough. 29 minutes of a top 10. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Sayonara, peeps. Take care. Looking forward to Multiversus. Bye.